In today's episode, we're talking about a 5-week-old baby who was found unresponsive in his home, leading to an extensive investigation. His parents claimed that they had no idea what happened, but the truth is going to prove far, far more sad than you're going to expect. Welcome, lambs. Welcome, everyone, to your midweek mini. This is Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, and I am your host, Kai. If you're new here, then sit back, grab a drink of apple juice, and listen to this episode. And if you like it, go ahead and hit subscribe so you don't miss any other episodes. If you're a returning lamb, thank you so much for your support. It really means the world to me, and I'm really humbled by it. One more thing. Before we begin, I want to say that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/Love and Murder. If you want to be a sponsor of Love and Murder and a supporter, now is the time to do it because I have the full month of November as Black Friday November, which means you get everything that I offer in Patreon for half off. Only $5 donation a month. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. If you want to learn more about this, I will tell you about it after the show. So let's get into our midweek mini. I want to let you know that before we begin, listener discretion is advised. Severe case of child abuse is ahead. Ollie Davis was born on September 21st, 2017 at 38 weeks. Even though he was small, he was a healthy baby. And for the first 3 weeks of his life, he seemed to be in a loving family under the care of his parents, Michael Davis, who was 29, and Kayleigh Driver, who was 31. He was surrounded by a supported, extended family, including his grandmother, Mandy Bolton, and step-grandfather, Peter, and his Aunt Georgia, who lived with him and his parents in their home in Upper Temple Walk in Leicester, UK. On October 21st, 2017, a 911 call came in. It came from the home of Kayleigh Driver and Michael Davis. When paramedics arrived, they found Ollie, who was 5 weeks old at the time, unresponsive in his crib. They immediately took him to the Leicester Royal Infirmary. However, despite every effort from the medical team, at 7:30 a.m., they decided to stop life-saving measures, and Ollie was pronounced dead. Immediately after Ollie was pronounced dead, medical staff alerted the police because of the suspicious nature of his injuries. Like, for instance, imagine you're looking at an x-ray of a 5-week-old baby, and all you see is fracture after fracture after fracture. So apparently, I can't work in law enforcement. I can't be a police officer. I can't be a judge. I can't be an attorney. So we've all established that. Apparently, I can't work in a medical field either, because if I saw that, I don't know how calm I could remain. Of course, police immediately questioned the parents, trying to find out where these fractures came from. What's going on here? Do you know what happened to your baby and why these x-rays are showing these injuries? But both Michael and Kayleigh said they had no idea what happened. They didn't harm their son. They didn't harm him physically. They didn't harm him verbally. They had no idea what happened. Actually, Michael said, quote, "I don't know. Obviously, I'm not sure, obviously, how it's happened really." That's what Michael said. So the body was taken for autopsy, and the medical examiner did a very detailed autopsy. Once it was done, the reports came back saying that this 5-week-old baby had extensive injuries. It did show he had a broken neck, which is what ultimately killed him, but it showed far more than just that. It showed that this 5-week-old baby, Ollie, suffered a total of 37 fractures, including breaks in his skull, in his rib, in his collarbone, in his arms, and the joints of all of his limbs. I can't imagine the pain this baby was in. The joints of all of his limbs? Arms, ribs. That means every breath he took collarbone, skull. Have you ever hit your head so hard? I'm really clumsy, so I have, where you like taste metal, like, and then after that it starts hurting. I know you've had a knot on your head before. This is a 5 week, okay. The autopsy further detailed that Ollie's neck had been, quote, snapped between 4 and 8 days before his death. This led to delayed effects that eventually stopped his breathing. He was walking around for about a week with a broken neck. And the parents are going to tell me they didn't know what was going on. All these injuries. And as an adult, I would be crying like I was a 5-week-old infant if I had all these injuries. And you're telling me all these injuries and you didn't know what was going on? Okay. Medical experts describe the force needed for these injuries as, quote, severe compressive force, and liken the extent of the fractions to what one might see in a high-impact car accident. Pediatrician Dr. Robinson, who is a child protection expert, called it the most severe case of abuse he had ever seen. After the medical examiner's report, of course, the case now moved into a full investigation led by the Crown Protection Service, which is CPS. So I guess they have a CPS in the UK, but it's a different thing. Crown Protection Services. Is that like to protect children? Let's look that up, shall we? Okay, so according to cps.gov.uk, the Crown Prosecution Service, I guess I was saying that wrong or reading that wrong. Yeah, I read Crown Prosecution Service, prosecutes criminal cases that have been investigated by the police and other investigative organizations in England and Wales. So CPS for us is completely different. So the case moved into a full investigation led by the Crown Prosecution Service. I apologize for saying the wrong word before. Both Michael and Kayleigh were arrested on October 27th, 2017, which was just a week after Ollie died. However, they ended up being released on bail while police continued investigating them. Now I gotta say this. You saw this x-ray with fracture after fracture after fracture, as it said, plus the ME report, and you allowed these people to get out on bail? Are you insane? I really don't understand why they were released. I don't get it, but whatever. Also, that's not the only thing to be outraged at. Due to the complex nature of the medical evidence and including the repeated denial from both parents, the investigation took long. It was meticulously put together, which I guess accounted for how extensive it was, but it took long. And by long, I mean almost 6 years. During the investigation, police interviewed family members, neighbor, and medical professionals who helped piece together a timeline of events. Authorities were able to confirm that Ollie had been in the exclusive care of his parents, primarily in their bedroom during the time frame of his injuries. Remember, we said about a week. Medical professionals noted that Ollie would have been in, quote, intense pain, like I said. Because, I mean, I've never broken a rib, but imagine ribs touching your lungs. So that means every time you breathe in and your lungs expand, it's moving that broken bone. Imagine the pain. If anybody has ever broken a bone before and then tried to move that bone, imagine the pain. I've never had any fractures in my skull, but I have bashed my head before. I know that pain. I can't imagine if it was fractured. Then, okay, let me tell you what it says. He had displaced fractures in his right arm, fractures all over his right arm, and his collarbone. You know how long it takes a collarbone to heal? I can't even imagine the pain of a broken or fractured collarbone. Then, like I said, the broken ribs, and all of this would have made a baby cry. Every time he moves, he would have cried. So he was crying nonstop. And they didn't think something was wrong. Well, they claimed that they didn't think something was wrong with him. Seriously? Along with this, evidence came out that there was neglect during his overnight care, particularly on October 20th through the 21st. Michael had been the one only in charge of Ollie during these hours while Kayleigh slept. Investigators think that this specific night was when the final injuries occurred, the fatal neck injury where his neck was broken. The reason why they think that is because of his gaming activity on that night. And we're going to go into why they think this. That night, in looking at his activity online, they think that with his gaming, and it looked like he had erratic behavior on the gaming, and he probably got frustrated trying to game and take care of Ollie, and that's when it escalated into violence. I think it escalated into violence that entire week. And I mean, how much damage can a 5-week-old baby's body take? So I think it was a week of the escalated violence, and the 20th or the 21st, that was the last straw for his body, I mean. Then on top of all of this, they let them out on bail. Ollie's parents had weird behavior. You have a 5-week-old son that died, and they're posting on social media. Like Kayleigh posted on Facebook, quote, "Happy 1 year and 4 months to my man. I love you with all my heart, and I wouldn't change you for the world. I love you." In the same month, she wrote, quote, "I'm so in love with my man. Can't wait to marry him next year. I love you, Michael James Davis." Your child died. I don't know if you noticed, Kayleigh, but your 5-week-old child died, and you're on here expressing to the world how much you love a man and you're going to marry him next year, like you didn't just lose a child. But they say everybody grieves differently, so even the police are looking at this as erratic and strange behavior, so it's not just me. So anyway, she said that, and Michael replied, quote, "Aw, same baby, and I love you too." As the months continue, because remember I said this investigation took about 6 years, they kept being very active on social media. Michael was posting about his lost son, and he even asked for donations to SANS, which is a bereavement charity. So he was saying, if you can give donations to me so I can donate to SANS, he said this will be a very meaningful gesture to him in memory of Ollie. So everybody was donating to him so he could take that donation and give it to SANS. But then later, in speaking to SANS, it turned out that they didn't ever receive any money. They never got anything. No donations. So where was the money, Michael? It doesn't sound like these people are sad about losing a 5-week-old baby in the horrific manner they lost him in. Now, one of the reasons why this took so long, one of the obstacles that prevented the case from moving forward smoothly, was because Kayleigh had health-related issues. She had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis while the investigation was going on. It didn't stop the investigation, but it just made it harder, which I don't understand why. I understand feeling sorry for somebody who didn't kill their 5-week-old baby and had multiple sclerosis, but not for somebody who killed their 5-week-old baby. And I know you're probably going to say, Kai, that is so mean. Fracture after fracture after fracture. Yes, I'm going to be mean. So finally, in March of 2024, this happened in 2017, y'all. March of 2024, they were able to take Kayleigh and Michael to court. And that's when the trial started. The prosecution was able to find multiple medical experts who were like, look, I will cancel my family vacation to come to this trial. I will testify on the trauma that Ollie endured. I don't care what I'm doing that day. My car's in the shop. Taxi. I'm coming. Multiple medical experts said they were coming to provide testimony. Witnesses, including pediatricians, forensic pathologists, and child protection specialists, testified to Ollie's injuries as well. The Crown Prosecution Service, CPS, remember in this case, led by Crown Counsel Jonas Hacken KC, argued that Ollie's injuries, which like I said were inflicted over several days or weeks, required different types of violence. So this is why they were saying that this was not a single episode, and this was actually a pattern of abuse. Quote, Ollie could not have caused the injuries to himself. He was a pre-mobile baby. Basically meaning that he was too young and physically incapable of self-inflicting harm, because at 5 weeks you can't even hold up your head yet. Can you? 5 weeks? Yeah. You literally just learned to hold up your head and probably learned to hold up your upper body. That's really it. 5 weeks? You can't crawl. You can't. Are they rolling even at 5 weeks? You're literally new to this world. Now, I wonder why he brought that up. Were the parents trying to act like Ollie did this to himself? I don't know, officer. Maybe he hit himself in the head with his brush or his bottle. And it's like 5 weeks. Is he even holding his bottle by himself? So it didn't say why this was the prosecution's opening, but I have a feeling it's because the parents were trying to blame this on the baby. So then they broke down in court exactly what Ollie's injuries were. A broken neck, which the prosecution said was the ultimate cause of death. 23 broken ribs. Fractures to his skull, collarbone, both arms, and the joints of all 4 limbs, like I told you. Brain injuries, including bleeding over the surface of the brain. And one of the rib fractures that happened right before Ollie died, this became the focal point in implicating Michael, who was the only person alone with Ollie when it happened. As for Kayleigh, she wasn't accused of inflicting the injuries. The prosecution argued that she must have been aware of Ollie's distress. So that's what she was there for. You were complicit in the abuse. They noted that it was impossible not to notice the baby's constant cries and signs of distress. Now, this is what I was telling you about the video game. So in court, they presented that during the investigation, authorities found that Michael had a strong attachment to playing his video games, which I don't mind people playing video games, but there's a level. Like, don't be obsessed with it. Don't quit your job. Don't dismiss your entire family for your video games. Yeah, playing video games is fine, but you also have responsibilities as an adult. This person didn't understand that. He played video games to the point that it actually impacted his family responsibilities. Before Ollie was born, he spent so much of his life focused on gaming that he didn't even go and get a job. He described himself as a, quote, nocturnal owl. There are night jobs, you know, and said that he played games through the night and slept during the day. That's not cute. I would say nobody wants that, but apparently Kayleigh was okay with it. On October 16th was a day that he had been heavily gaming, and that was the night before Ollie's death. He had messaged a friend that night right after midnight saying that he had fallen asleep. He had actually fallen asleep in the middle of the game, but he decided to continue playing after he woke up and he realized he fell asleep. Sir, aren't you supposed to be watching a baby? The judge then noted that Michael's, quote, lack of proper sleep is what likely affected his temper and judgment. I say there are mothers who, look, when I tell you how long I went without sleep when I had a newborn baby and I didn't shake my baby, I didn't hit my baby, I didn't cause fracture after fracture. So I call bullshit. You lost sleep because of a video game. Most people lose sleep because the baby's waking up every 2 hours to feed. You decided to lose sleep. I guess in a sense, we decided to lose sleep too. However, the only difference is we lost sleep and we weren't raging idiots, shaking our baby and harming them. So I don't agree with the lack of proper sleep affecting his temper. I just believe he was a dick. The prosecution's case against Kayleigh was what I already told you, and they compounded on that by saying that she acted with callous indifference to Ollie's suffering, saying that even though Ollie would have been crying all through the whole week, she didn't try and seek medical help to find out what was going on because she knew what was going on. And they told her she used ignorance to ignore the signs of abuse and complacency to allow it to continue. So this is what they told Kayleigh. Michael, on the other hand, was found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 22 years before eligibility of parole. Now, normally I would rant and rave about parole and everything like that, but I think that's just how the law is in England. I could be wrong. So all my English lambs, let me know in the comments below if I'm wrong, but I don't think they have a just life in prison without the possibility of parole over in England. Not really sure though. Kayleigh was convicted of charges on causing or allowing the death of a child and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Detective Inspector Mark Parrish, who was one of the investigators who actually led the entire investigation, called it a, quote, complex case requiring the utmost dedication from our team. We never lost sight of the importance of achieving justice for Ollie. And that is the case of poor baby Ollie Davis. What did you think about that? I told y'all this was going to be a hard one. I can't believe Kayleigh only got 7 years. She should have gotten the same sentence as Michael, because even though she didn't physically hurt the baby, being complicit is akin to physically hurting the baby. Like, it was a 5-week-old. How are you being lenient to these people? 7 years in prison and 22, life. And with a minimum term of 22 before eligibility for parole. So he's like, so you're saying there's a chance? You're giving him hope. I wouldn't do that. It was a 5-week-old. I cannot get over that. Anyways, that is the murder of baby Ollie. And I'm feeling really bad for that baby. That baby suffered a whole week. Go ahead and break Kayleigh's and Michael's rib, just one, and let them suffer for a week while trying to breathe. Then, after it heals, go ahead and break every joint in their arms, and then wait for that to heal. Look, again, I know some of my lambs are going to tell me that's really mean, Kai, but again, I'm going to remind you, fracture after fracture after fracture on an x-ray of a 5-week-old baby. I can't even. Anyways, that is all I have for you for this case. Let me tell you a bit about the Patreon sale that's going on. So it is a full month Lamb Black Friday sale. My highest tier of Patreon, I am giving that for only $5 a month donation, which is 50% off. In this tier, because it is the November sale tier, you actually get everything, every single thing that I put out in Patreon. You're going to get it, and you're going to get it for half off. For instance, I just did a game episode for our Patreon, but I put it out for everybody to listen to. This kind of stuff I'm going to be having in our Patreon, and only for the higher tier. So it's going to be stuff like Would You Rather, stuff like questions getting to know the host, stuff like quizzes, where you can join in with the quiz too. Then we have Kai Rants, we have monthly bonus episodes, and all of this you get in our Patreon. But if you sign up under this tier, you also get it. So it's only $5 a month donation. This sale is only going on for the month of November. So if you ever wanted to join the Patreon, now is the time to do it. Patreon.com/loveandmurder. And what you would do is you would look for the November sale tier on there. Patreon.com/loveandmurder. And that is all I have for you for this midweek mini. Let me know your thoughts on this case. Don't forget to go ahead and sign up for our Patreon, patreon.com/loveandmurder, or a free and easy way of helping out Love and Murder is by simply sharing this episode. So share with everyone you know and everyone you don't. Share it in the text messages, and then go to one of our social media and share one of our reels or videos there. Share it with your friends on your social, and share it with your friends off of social. And that is all I have for you today, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.